officially go. Welcome everyone, thank you for coming out this evening for our informational session on our budget for FY18. This is a meeting of the Blackstone Millville Regional School District, but really a meeting of all the people who came here tonight. So we'll do our official opening and call the meeting to order, do some introductions, and do the pledge, and then we're going to join you all and have a conversation. So, welcome to our meeting. I am Jane Reggio, the chair of the school committee and also from Millville. And I am very pleased to tell you our new member is here.
Diane Robin, Blackstone. Tara Larkin, Millville. Tammy Lemmy, Blackstone. Sarah Williams, Blackstone. Carrie Vernon, Millville.
And if you all will join me in standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will also tell you that our meeting is being recorded and it is being shown live. But just so you know. And then again, as I said, we're just hoping that this will be a dialogue, that we'll present to you some ideas of what we're looking at for the budget in very early phases, earlier than we've ever done before, with just the needs that we collected from meeting with the leadership team in the district, from discussions with the school committee, and now discussions with you. And hopefully we can look at that budget and dialogue about it and dialogue about the future of the Blackstone Millville Regional School District and where things are going, should go, and gather your input, suggestions, ideas. So on that, I'm going to ask our superintendent to give us a brief presentation, and I'm going to take my seat. And thank you all for coming.
Good evening, all. The broadcast folks from cable say that we should all use the mic when we are talking, as we are being recorded and also played live. So thank you all again for being here. This is, I think, is as early as we have put forth budget information in a while, and I think it's important for all of us to at least listen and hear, and then have everyone else listen and hear to your thoughts as well. My name's Alan Himmelberger. I am the superintendent of schools. While I am retiring September of this year, I have grown quite fond of this district and of these communities and of our students. And I really, really am hopeful that this will start a more positive dialogue and a far more positive process, so that there's greater understanding, if not a greater source of funds, a greater understanding of what we are all up against. So I put together a very brief presentation. Hopefully everybody has the handout that I put together. In that you will see that Mrs. Cobb, our business manager, has put together, and I'll post this on the website so anyone watching will be able to find this as well tomorrow. Wen has taken and broken down everything by our cost centers, which are really subsets of our function codes, which are subsets of our cost centers. And you also have the list of the needs as developed by the leadership team, by our directors and principals, for next year. And as we go through this again, I'm going to just take through the slides fairly quickly, because I think it's important just to listen and hear so we can all engage. I see community members, town administrators, chairs of committees, boards of selectmen, finance committee members, teachers, the leadership team. You all are here because you are invested in our communities and in our school district. All three entities cannot go it alone. All three entities must understand each other's needs, and I think that's my reason certainly for asking the school committee to gather and have a quick meeting this evening. Everyone I know has been out late Monday night at meetings Tuesday night, last night late, and we have meetings tomorrow night, so we don't have to set a record tonight, but certainly we will begin the discussion. So the school department, the school district's budget is large and complex. What drives it are our fixed costs. Primarily about 80% of it is salary and benefits. Our capital costs, we know we are in desperate need of building renovations as well as a long-term maintenance plan. Our curriculum and technology, the change is rapid. As many of you probably know, the state has changed our science curriculum for K-8. We are a bit behind in funding that. We also have on the horizon history and social studies that is going through the public comment now and will be hopefully approved for September of 2019. And we also have, based upon the number of tech-related jobs open in the Commonwealth, along with computer science, driving those jobs, there is a huge movement to make computer science and some of the courses part of the foundational curriculum as a graduation requirement. That will take, obviously, more money to support not only the technology, the hardware and software, but also the training and professional development of those teaching those subjects. We also know that our special education and English language learners as subgroups have intensified over the last several years, and those students require much more in terms of services at a much earlier age. We know that we cut in fiscal 18 on this year's budget several key positions: an adjustment counselor at the high school, the assistant superintendent for curriculum, a groundskeeper, 2 custodians. These are all directly related to the drivers above. Each one of those cuts has had a dramatic impact on our operation this year. So our budget breaks down that about 94% of it on any given year is fixed. It's what we need to spend to open the doors. There's only about 5 or 6% that is discretionary spending. We also have, where's Jim? Mr. Watson. We also have OPEB as an important subject for us to tackle, like all financial entities in the Commonwealth and across the country. The General Accounting Standards Bureau has given us more bars to try and hit, and we must set aside for other post-employment benefits. Typically, what we have been doing is paying as we go. We have certainly identified through the actuarial studies what is involved there, and I think, as we have discussed in other meetings, at least to have some money dedicated will go a long way towards an easier access to funds as we borrow for our renovation projects. Our excess and deficiency fund is our stabilization account. Currently, it's somewhere between 1.5% to 2% of our total budget. So that is somewhere around $350,000 to $400,000. That is not much. The state allows us to carry up to 5% of our budget in our stabilization or our excess and deficiency, and we are way under that because previous school committees have been able to use some E&D to offset budget needs. We are at a point where we just are unable to do that any longer. So we have a tremendous amount of proposed increases. This really hasn't changed over the last 3 or 4 years. Every year we have between 6% and 8% of a total increase. It's staffing that was cut in prior years that we are still chasing. The contractual amount is the largest. and that is salary increases. We have $454,000 that's delineated on one of your pages for additional staff in order to deliver the curriculum and all of the education that we must in today's environment. Insurance and retirement, we have less money coming in from the state and from the federal government in terms of grants and offsets, so that is going to also pinch the need. And then across, we have made some cuts in prior years that we are hoping to try at least put out for discussion that we need. We cut some funding for athletics and for music this past year just to get to our number. So the total increase is $1,885,000. That's a huge amount of money based upon where we are. The position requests here are additional tech support across the district. We right now have 2.6 or 2.7 whirlwind technologists trying to keep all of our technology working. We have an increased need for special ed teachers, technology teachers that have been cut and now looking to replace. The reading specialists would allow us to schedule properly and give our students the proper amount of that, and we are in desperate need of it. We wanted to increase the paraprofessionals for similar reasons, and we do not have many current permanent subs. We rely on day-to-day subs. So these are, as I was referring to earlier, these are the cycles that we have gone through, and they are very familiar in number and in percentage year after year. We start with a 4.5, an 8.2, a 6.8, a 7.6, and 8.4% increase because our base is so low. The state auditor came out with a report on the strategic and financial structure of regional school districts that was published just before my 3-year plan. And based upon our per pupil expenditure and enrollment, we are 56th out of 58 academic regional school districts in funding. So as you can see here now, over the past couple of years, we had a 2.2% increase, a 1%, and last year a 2% increase. And I know some people are saying, well, wait a minute, you gave us this shiny strategic and financial plan and you only had a 3.1% increase in it. That number was based upon historical trend analysis. This is based on what we need to put back if that's the level of education we want for our students. Again, you can see the salary and benefits are in any school district the lion's share. In municipalities, the benefits are covered by the town, and then it's a charge back to the district. But in a regional, the financial entity is the regional school district. Transportation, the building operation and maintenance, the heating, special education, all of that this year is just over 94%. And those are dollars that we have to spend in some form or fashion. On building operation and maintenance, last March, we ended up with no heat at Kennedy and Maloney. The heat went out at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday night. And thanks to Jimmy Sullivan and to Jimmy Page, who came down on their own time, they put that heating system back online. Millville Elementary lost one of its boilers over the New Year's Eve weekend. Kennedy and Maloney's boilers went down this past Sunday, which was about the coldest day most of us can remember. So that leaves about 5 to 6% that is discretionary spending, and this pretty much mirrors how school budgets currently are constructed. That's the curriculum, the technology, supplies, the athletics and the music, the other things that we need. Again, I don't want to dwell on this, slide too much, but this is what was reported in the auditor, the state auditor, Suzanne Bump's report. And this was from FY16, which is the most recent year we have these per pupil expenditures. Every district reports the same, apples to oranges, across the state. Uxbridge, which has had their own struggles with financing their schools, per pupil expenditure was $13,926. If that was ours, that would generate just over another $1 million on our budget. So that's the conundrum, that's the challenge for all of us. That is what we must decide as to how we go forward. And I guess it's easy for me to say this now because my retirement date is public. But I want everyone to know that schools are a part of the community. And the community is part of the schools. It has to be that way. It has to be that way. And I know that given the rough and tumble political landscape that has been our environment, that sometimes we lose sight of that. But it has to be that we are proud of the communities we live in, and we are proud of the school district that serves our families and our children. Again, this is just a quick look back at the growth that got us behind the curve, and that was the 6 years where we just didn't grow. And as a matter of fact, 5 of those 10 years, we had a lower school budget. And as I've said many times, and you'll be happy to hear that you won't have to listen to me say that much longer, it's the state and the federal piece of the pie that has put the pressure on the towns. It's not because towns don't want to support education. It's because the other percentages of the support for school districts has eroded steadily and continues to erode. We are looking at circuit breaker reimbursement right now that's on hold in Boston because of the unease of the congressional action in December. And so this all ripples back to the individual municipalities and the taxpayers. And those are the numbers. Again, they're on the 3-year plan as well. Both the 3-year plan and the state auditor's report are on the website, and you can access those just on the left toolbar. So that information is there. I would turn the microphone back to the chair, Mrs. Reggio, and would hope that we can start and continue a positive dialogue for everybody to hear what we can do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Himmelberger. So what the school committee has done in the past with this type of information is we've often invited the leadership team to come talk to us about those needs and what they are and why they're important, and those are usually very passionate meetings because we know 8.4% increase to our communities is something that's seemingly a pipe dream. Yet we also know that every single one of those principals, the business manager, the technology person, the special ed director would get up here and tell you, but we need this to move forward. We need this. You have tasked us to deliver the best education possible, to use the best practices we know to deliver that education for every student who lives in this district, regardless of their need, regardless of their ability, everyone that lives here. We need to educate. That's the job. That's why we do what we do, and we do it as a community. We do it as a school system, a school district in the towns of Blackstone and Millville, and we need to do it together. And so usually then the school committee would look at these numbers and say, oh, maybe we can move this here, do this in China, do this over here. We can't do this. This will be on our cut line. If we don't get A, we get B. And then we usually go to the towns and we say, okay, we brought it down and this is the best we can do. And then the towns will say, and we can't meet that. So instead of just trying to figure out where we go, what do we do, how do we do this, we wanted more dialogue, and that's why we're here tonight. We want to work together with everybody that's sitting in this room, or people who are listening on their home television screens, or are gonna play it later on YouTube. We want to know, how do we best do this? How do we look at these needs and how do we make it work in Blackstone, Millville, for the families, for the students, for the betterment of the towns, because we need good school systems here. And you've heard us all say, you know, we're reaching a tipping point, and we've heard the town say we're reaching a tipping point. Well, we've kind of tipped. We've really tipped. It's not we're reaching the tipping point, we've tipped. And we've got to fill the bucket up somehow, and we need your help to do that. So we're looking for guidance, we're looking for ideas. You know, as you look at these numbers, what jumps out at you? What do you think makes these school systems, these schools, these actual physical buildings, you know, premier in this area, that the enrollments will increase, that the people will get excited about, that the townspeople can support? What do we do? What do we need to do, and how do we do it together? So the microphone is yours. It's not ours, but it's anybody's who's sitting in here, and we'd like to hear, what's your reaction? What's your gut? Where we go with this? You know, what are we looking at? How do we make this work?
I think I stopped being cute a long time ago. But as your superintendent said, I guess I'm the person on OPED, so let me kick off with that one. I notice under the form that they gave us that on line 5200, okay, there's a thing there for benefits and insurance for $3,516,000. Okay, because I don't find it broken out anywhere, I assume that's both for your current employees and for the retirees. So my first recommendation is that the accounting people break that line out into two separate numbers, one for your active employees that are still in the system, and a second for the retirees, okay? Then if you take the annual required contribution out of the retirement plan thing for the OPED plan, and you subtract what you're actually paying out cash from that, it will give you the net deficit that you have to fund the retirement benefits you're under contract to give. And then the next time you go into negotiations with the unions, make a cash contribution into OPED part of what they're getting as their negotiation. That is probably the biggest and best step that I think you can do to try to deal with a problem that over the years has grown long before this superintendent and this school board was here. And somewhere in the neighborhood of the 20 million, I know I've seen the number, and I don't want to specify it because I'm my old memory isn't that good for numbers anymore, but that's in the bracket that it's in. And I know you tried an awful hard to do it, and it's hard to keep costs in line. But on that one, that would be my recommendation. And the $3,516,000 is the second biggest line item on there. And so it makes reasonable sense to break it out into the two. And I hope I broke the ice, and not too badly. And I wish you luck. We're all in the same boat.
Jennifer Dean Wing, Millville. So I guess in the spirit of transparency and starting these meetings, so one of the things that I've always asked, like year from year, and I've never officially asked, but you say to yourself, what did they expend last year? So is this a level funded budget with the increases of contracts and agreements, or is this like kind of the wish list of things? So I guess, you know, is it zero funded with the increase, with a zero base budget and then built upon, or is it level funded with those other increases? So I guess I just don't know where that process started. Then the other question I tend to ask is, what did you spend last year on that line item? So I don't know if that could, I'll put that officially, if we could possibly see. I know this year's not done, so you'd almost have to go a year and a half back. So I think just the expenditure on those line items in the past. And I'm not sure how long ago it was, but we had a line item, like the big, thick binder available at Town Hall. So I think that's helpful also. And I think the only other piece that's missing on here is other funds. So I know you mentioned circuit breaker, but you know, we have an E&D account and any other accounts that do kind of flow back into the general funding of the school budget, I think would be helpful.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Superintendent, for your presentation. I think my main purpose here is to try to also articulate what I think might be questions on the part of both the Board of Selectmen. My name is Jennifer Callahan, and the Town Administrator in Millville, for those who don't know, and I apologize for not saying that in the beginning. But I do think there will be questions from the Board of Selectmen who were looking for, and I know our Finance Committee had been requesting a 3-year plan, and you did do that, and we really appreciated that in November. And I know that we have been having meetings separately with our Finance Director and Accountant, as well as our Finance Committee. And in that 3-year projection for fiscal year 19, I think we did ask, and your chairwoman was very, I think, astute in wanting to make sure that we finally had a 3-year budget, because the Town of Millville really needs to have that to really not only reflect on prior to going into their budget negotiations, but they also need it to be able to look at what's realistic for us to be able to contribute to the school. And in that 3-year budget projection, you had a total of $23,157,166. And in the new version of what you've put, that number has escalated up to $24,343,730. I think the notion of looking at a 3-year budget projection was really to come in somewhere close to that budget projection. That was the purpose of we were hoping for. So I understand what you're saying, you're wrestling with for trying to fill the bucket, but I do think that's going to be an overarching question for the Finance Committee. And that's one of the things we wanted to have that information, not just as something that was a plan that's going to be placed on a shelf, but something that we were going to get close to. And that's what we needed to have as information. So that $1 million increase almost is a pretty big departure. So if you can speak to that, and I don't necessarily need you to speak for it tonight, but I do want you to know that I think that will be, you know, questions from the town of Millville. Thank you.
Absolutely, Jen. So that 3-year plan was compiled in October. And looking at where we have been, we looked at the cost centers before we had conversations individually with the principals and leadership team, the directors, to see what the needs were. That's typically done starting mid-December into January. We started it in November. I think the conversation has to be about what we need, and because I don't tell the leadership team, you must deliver a 1% increase, because we all know the history that a 1% increase wouldn't give us enough to operate under. FY17, we had to wait until our final Medicare reimbursements were totaled up to even break even. This year will be another challenging year, given the things that keep breaking, the number of students moving in with tremendous needs, and expenditures that are just impossible to forecast. So 3.1 is a long way from 8.4, absolutely. And, but I think we would not be helping ourselves nor giving the full disclosure if we didn't put out everything that this district needs. I know some folks say that, well, geez, your enrollment's dropping, that should mean fewer dollars to spend. And yes, our enrollment, like many districts, is decreasing, but the enrollment decline is never in one grade or one building. It is really across all grades in all buildings. As well, we are getting needier students who require more services and more funding to support their education, all of which is mandated by a myriad of laws and statutes at both the state and federal level. We don't have anywhere to go, and as those students move in and those numbers continue to increase in a set finite number, other things have to not be spent. And so we run the risk, as many districts do, of students that don't require as many services not being able to access all that we should give them because of the rapid increases in our Title I students, our English language learners, and our students with special education needs. Now, the state has said, when they went back to the foundation budget review in 2015, that yes, we recognize that the two most volatile areas for a school budget are, and this was no surprise, they didn't need a year to figure this out, health insurance and special ed costs. And those have risen dramatically year after year. And so, I think that part of it, Jen, was the timing. You know, I did not want to put out just a number. We looked at each cost center and came in with where we thought that could be. We all know that a 3.1% increase, that's $779,000, would be the biggest increase the district's gotten this century. So, you know, unless there are funding sources on the horizon, we know that even that number is going to be a difficult number. But that is what we came up with as that original plan. When we go back in and look at what we really truly need, it does become a staggering number. And that is the conundrum that we are all facing. It's not fair. It's not fair to put that burden solely on property tax, and yet that's what most Northeast states do. And it's not fair that the state and the federal government have artfully dodged much of their responsibility. And that is something that I have said in years gone by. I think it's pretty well known that it puts way too much pressure on municipal budgets to be able to do that. However, our job is to take what we have as total resources and utilize those to the best of our abilities. And I think that we do that. I think that we continue to look for cost containment, and yet the factors that come into play out of our control erode whatever gain we can find. So I'm very sensitive to that, but I did not want to use that 3.1% as, okay guys, this is the number you have to hit. I don't really care what else you need. And so while some of those things are that are included in that 8.4% number, that 1,885,000, again, that's what the district requires. We are dangerously low on our stabilization account. We have the OPEB funding that we must start to do. We have buildings that are in desperate need, and we never know when something was going to break, making it harder to plan and harder to be strategic about the maintenance. We have just, it seems, one challenge after another. And so while I think everybody, school committee included, as taxpayers understands where we are, we at least wanted to put out that number as the starting point. Do we even get to 3.1? I don't know. I think that's up to town meeting. But I think it's important for everybody to know that these are numbers that are constructed based upon need, not nice to haves, not things that, well, everybody else has it, so we deserve it. No. It is simply what we estimate as the professionals in the school district that we need to do our jobs for your children and your grandchildren. Thanks.
I also want to remind everybody, when that 3-year budget was released, I said at the time at a school committee meeting, and I think the school committee members said it even more strongly than I did, that you needed to read the dialogue along with just the chart of numbers. Because the dialogue, the written word, had these other things that are appearing now. So we knew that these other items that would bring that budget up were coming in. We didn't know to what extent, we didn't know to what need, and so the wording in the document is as important as the chart in the document, and it's the pieces that all go together. And I know everybody's looking for a bottom line, and that's a hard thing to do, because we don't know what's coming from circuit breaker, if anything at all. We don't know what's coming from Chapter 70. I mean, that stuff, as you all know, doesn't come out till, if we're lucky, April, January, February, who knows? It seems to change all the time, and even when we get the first numbers, they seem to change. So, we're trying to do something we've never done before, and we're trying to figure out as we go, how we go, and how we do that, so that we can know where you're coming from, where we're coming from, and so it's not a you and an us, but it's all of us together. And how do we do this? How do we do this best to serve the needs of the community, the children within these communities? No one has any other thoughts they want to share or passionate pleas they want to make or, okay. Well, as you know, this is, again, you know, kind of phase 2 of the budget process, and there will be other opportunities for people to come. We will have our public hearing. This is not our public hearing. This was just an opportunity for you to see what we're looking at and help us, and we really do need your help. We are an 8-member committee, and we're looking for some guidance. We got some great guidance from our leadership team, and now we need that guidance from our communities. So we're looking for that. We're asking for that. So if this is not an opportunity, if you want to ask to meet with us, I know the finance committees have offered us opportunities on occasion. We're wanting to do that. As we hone this, as we refine this, it has to be about dialogue. So we'll have those public hearings. We have a school committee meeting tomorrow if you come up with something and you want to ask it, or just a dialogue. We just really need that communication so that it doesn't just wait till a town meeting and nobody understands what they're looking at or understands why things have gone up and there's numbers or there's that big budget packet that I know some people like to look at, but most people don't understand. So we try to phrase it in these cost centers that you get, that these are the personnel costs and they're going up 3% because of a contractual agreement that we made 3 years ago. And people, I think, can understand that better than this person's salary went here, this person went over here. So that was our guidance. If that's not what you're looking for and you're looking for something else, you need to let us know that, because this is kind of the direction we're going and we need your help.
Jim Watson, I don't think I introduced myself before, from Blackstone. I think some of the silence is that we're relatively early in the budgeting process, both for the towns and for the schools. We got a packet about this size with the preliminary town budget on Monday night, okay, and we haven't, I've looked at it, but I certainly haven't analyzed it, okay? And it's going to be the proverbial meeting of the immovable object and the force to try to reconcile the two, but to try and give feedback to you as to what the towns can do. It's just plain too early. Just be regurgitating last year's comments, and that's not really good at this point.
Hi, Steve Tringali. I'm from Millville. I'm the principal of the JFK Elementary in Blackstone. I was on the school committee for a bunch of years, and I was on FinCom for Millville before that. With all that being said, there are still line items in this budget that are difficult to understand. Even when I was in the school committee, I would invite anyone in this room and anyone in the towns, if there's something that you don't understand, you'd like to see it firsthand. I'm speaking for myself and also the other administrators. If you'd like to come and visit our schools at any time, just let us know and we can schedule that. If you don't understand what an item looks like or how it's implemented, let us know, and please, please come visit. And again, that's everyone out there, not just people in the seats here today. So again, I know all the other administrators do the exact same thing. But there's a lot, yeah, when the thing is this thick, what does this mean? What does that mean, copiers? What does that mean, this or that? You know, what does that mean, a new math textbook? Can I see it? Sure, come and visit. We would, you know, it puts a lot more context to it. Right now, it's just numbers on a page. So, thanks.
By the way, you don't have to be from Blackstone or Millville to speak. This is an open meeting. Anyone else? No one else? Okay.
Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Okay. Moved by Tara, seconded by Tammy. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, thank you very much. This is a start, hopefully a great start, hopefully something we can continue and maybe fill the seats next time.